Sometimes, when it looks like a romance is blooming, keeping up with the relationship and trying to face other life issues starts to get difficult. Anne struggles with her love life. In the same way, Gies also struggles with pleasing his mom and keeping the promises he made to his girlfriend. Let's see if their love stands the test of time and gives them a happy ending. In the opening scene of Gies and Anne, all hands are on deck, as Anne is giving orders and trying to make sure everything is perfect for the event. Natha is so thrilled and very nervous when she hears she's doing the opening performance, but Anne encourages her. Meanwhile, Thalia and her friend are busy checking out the hot guys in the band when Anne interrupts them. It turns out that Thalia just broke up with her boyfriend this morning, and she's already wanting to flirt with another boy. They believe that Anne wouldn't understand how they can't survive without a man, because she's never been in love. That hurts, but Anne ignores them and walks away. The crew are together, and Anne motivates them a little before they cheer themselves up and go get ready for their performance. The event kicks off, and Natha is still nervous, because she has to do the opening presentation as a stand-up comedian. Anna calls all Estabitharis to come and encourage and cheer Natha up before she's called up to the stage. Eventually, Natha comes up on stage, showing slight confidence and beaming with smiles. It looks like the motivation the crew gave her wasn't futile. Natha talks about friendship and turns it into a comedy that makes everyone roar in laughter. Her presentation is going well until the power is interrupted. Anne and the other crew members run to discover the cause of the power outage. Despite the crew telling her to call the technicians to fix the problem, Anne climbs up like a professional electrician, trying to find out what the problem is. While she's up there, a guy whom we later know to be Gies comes over and asks if she needs assistance, but Anne is not interested in the helping hand. Gies, seeing her stubbornness, also gives the same energy back. After checking back and forth, Anne finally discovers that the lever is down, and that was what caused the power outage. She immediately pushes it back up, and the power is restored. As Anne tries coming down, she misses her step and almost falls, but Gies catches her in his arms. This is like the beginning of most cliché love stories. The girls there feel the chemistry between Anne and Gies, and just stand there staring at both of them and smiling. When Anne regains herself, she quickly tells Gies to put her down. Anne is interested in where Gies came from, because people are not allowed to be backstage. But he is, and he tells her he's part of the Indie Brothers. Back on stage, Natha isn't even allowed to finish her performance before the microphone is collected from her. The Indie Brothers are called up to the stage for their performance, and the crowd just keeps on cheering till they're on stage. With Gies as their vocalist, they perform wonderfully well. Anne, from one corner, admires the Indie Brothers, but unlike the other girls with her, doesn't act thrilled. After their performance, Anne apologizes to Gies for the way she acted earlier, because she didn't know he was part of the Indie Brothers. But it seems Gies isn't offended after all, because he accepts the apology immediately. They have quite an abnormal and funny introduction, before he asks for her honest opinion on how his band performed well on stage. Anne bluntly replies that they were a little off in the chorus, although they still did well. Gies is happy with her honest opinion, and gives her a CD of one of his recorded audio to listen to and give her opinion about it. However, he doesn't give her any complimentary card or phone number through which she can get her comment to him, but just assures her that they'll surely meet again. As soon as Gies leaves Anne, her girls shout in excitement. They're happy that she's having a beautiful conversation with a man, and they can feel the chemistry between the two of them. At this point, she gets to know from Natha's hype that Gies is a popular alumnus from their school. Anne doesn't seem to be on the same page with the girls because, for her, they're going too far. At Gies' house, he meets his mom in his room when he comes out of the bathroom, and reminds her that she needs to take permission before entering his room. His mom wants to know where he has been, but it seems like she's not in support of his singing, so he lies to her. Due to his recent weird behavior, she thinks he's hiding from her, but he's disappointed that his mom doesn't trust him when she calls him out. Gies believes his mom cares about work more than she cares about him. When he brings up the issue, she changes the topic of discussion, knowing within her that what Gies is saying is the truth. While she is helping him tidy his room, she sees his plectrum for stringed instruments. Gies once again lies, to protect his music, that the plectrum fell when he was giving out his music belongings. She goes out of the room with the plectrum, after warning him not to get involved in music. It's another morning, and Anne is on a bus. Someone comes to her and wants to sit beside her. When she looks up, it's Gies, and she's shocked. He asks her for her review of the CD he gave her. Before Anne completes her statement, Gies interrupts, but she immediately cuts him short. Gies is too eager to hear her opinion on the CD, and just keeps on giving her options about it. Anne is fed up with his disturbance, and she's even wondering if her opinion on the CD is really that important, because the guy is stressing her out. Anne says something nasty about the CD to see his reaction, but then she later goes on to give her honest opinion of the song. She believes it leaves no impression and is too noisy. Gies pinches her cheeks because he doesn't agree with her opinion. Anne is shocked, and the look on her face says, "How dare this guy?" She stands up and goes to sit somewhere else, because it seems like Gies is too much of a pest for her. It's 2 weeks after her last encounter with Gies. Her friends are surprisingly keeping count for her. Like every normal girl clique, her friends are interested in how she and Gies are getting on. Anne is this tough-to-get girl, and isn't keen about having a boyfriend. However, her friends are interested in her and G's working out, but Anne's replies don't seem to give them a chance of celebrating her not being single anytime soon. It appears her friends are even more interested in her love life than Anne herself. Getting tired of these questions, the arrival of her bus saves her from answering more questions. Anne enters the bus and some seconds later feels someone's hand on her neck. She turns in fear, and it's G's. Once again, he wants her to listen to his new song, and Anne does so reluctantly. On getting off the bus, G's doesn't fail to ask for her opinion on the song. Surprisingly, she gives him a 9 out of 10. Running to catch up with her, G's wants a perfect remark on his song from Anne, so he says he'll do it again, even though he put so much into this last one. He says some things that make Anne conclude that his sense of humor is very weird. When they arrive at her door, Anne thanks G's for walking her home and offers to entertain him in her house, but he declines. G's goes ahead to give her the iPod and earpiece, and she is very grateful for the gift. When Anne wants to go in, G's flirts with her, passing an indirect message that he likes her, but she just smiles and goes into her house. Meanwhile, Anne's mom has been watching her daughter and G's from inside. So, as soon as Anne comes in, she asks about the boy. Before she can draw any conclusions, Anne immediately tells her they are just friends, and nothing else is going on between them. But it seems like her mom isn't comfortable with the answer. She doesn't believe that a boy that's just a friend would be gifting her daughter an iPod. Anne stylishly changes the topic. Later, when Anne goes up to her room, she is surprised to see flowers with her name on them. She picks up the note and discovers it's from G's. When her mom asks if they're from G's, she just ignores the question and changes the topic before closing her door. At G's house, his mom gives him his acceptance letter into a university in Berlin. However, he isn't excited, because he just wants to go to a local university in Indonesia and secretly continue with his band. But his determined mom insists that he must attend her alma mater, because her money and efforts to put him there can't be wasted at this point. G's doesn't want to upset his mom, so he reluctantly agrees to it. It now seems like this G's always shows up wherever Anne is. She's at a bookstore, and she bumps into him. He wants to know if she got the flowers, but Anne playfully tells him that her brother plucked all the petals before she could come home. He believes her, and his sad face makes her reveal the truth. Seeing the book in her hand, G's wonders why she'd still be reading such a book in this era. Anne isn't surprised to hear that, because she has been told by her friends that she is old-fashioned. Talking about her friends, G's doesn't give a good remark about them. But Anne tries complimenting her friends, so as not to make them be seen as bad people. G's collects the books from her and offers to pay for them, but Anne insists she can pay for her own items. Anne sees the German book in G's hand and asks if he's going to Germany, but he lies that his mom sometimes speaks to him in German, so he wants to use the book to learn. G's offers coffee to Anne, but she doesn't drink coffee, and she already has an appointment. This makes him feel jealous because he thinks her appointment is with another guy, so he offers to drop her off. It turns out that her appointment is with a group of kids to whom she teaches English. When they settle down, she introduces G's to them, and then they sing the song she taught them. Just as they're in between their next session, the ice cream man comes over and tells Anne that G's said the kids can have as much ice cream as they want. The kids are very happy, and they even leave their Miss Anne and run over to the ice cream cart. This amazes her, and she appreciates the gesture. He then hands her her favorite snack too. What a thoughtful man he is. G's is curious to know more about Anne's dedication to the kids, and it turns out that their families aren't financially stable enough to pay for English subjects at school. So, she has taken it upon herself to help them out from time to time, so that they can be fluent before they enter high school. This selfless service of hers amazes G's. Later on, G's drops Anne off at her house, but he still wants to be with her. He calls her back and lets her know that they'll meet again. Anne knows G's likes her, and it's obvious she likes him too, but she probably doesn't want to show it, or is waiting for him to say it so that she'll not just be assuming. In between smiles, she waves at him. When Anne gets to her room and is with her friends, they receive a delivery of bubble tea from G's. G's knows that to win a girl over, you also have to win her friends, because the opinions of friends can ruin the budding relationship. All her friends agree that they've given G's approval to go out with her. The catch for this bubble tea that G's gave Anne's friends is that they'll help her get ready to go out with him. Later, G's is at Anne's house and having a conversation with her dad and brother. It seems like he has already won her dad's heart over. This is because he tries to make his wife extend the time G's and Anne will be out together, when she says he should bring her back before 9. After much persuasion from her friends, Anne finally agrees to go on the date, but on the condition that they'll not overdress her. Her friends are even more excited about this date than she is. When Anne comes out all dressed up, G's can't stop staring. Anne's mom is concerned for her daughter's academics, and lets G's know that she won't want her daughter's grades suffer. While G's drives off with Anne, her friends come out of the house, screaming and waving at them happily. They eventually arrive at the place for the date. Funnily enough, while on the date, Anne is still thinking of the assignments she would have been doing if she was at home. G's isn't offended she feels that way, but just concludes that she's talking so much because she's nervous. Anne goes through the menu and admires the restaurant dishes, but notices that some meals are stroked out. To her surprise, G's told the restaurant to strike out every seafood and nut-related food, because she is allergic to it. Such a perfect gentleman. After eating, Jeez asks Anne to rate the date, and she says 9 out of 10. But it can be 10 out of 10 if he follows her somewhere. They arrive at the place Anne wanted to show to Jeez, and it turns out to be her extended family's property, which is managed by her dad. There's a treehouse there, and when they climb into it, Jeez is very excited to see a musical instrument called a ukulele. He beckons Anne to sit and plays a song on it. After the song, Jeez explains its meaning to her. It's about how his dad left his mom, and up till now, his mom still lives with hatred. Anne also tells him of the cardiac arrest that her dad suffered a while back, and how her mom became the breadwinner of the family. While they're discussing, Jeez's mom calls him to find out where he is, but he lies to her. Anne isn't impressed with the lie, because she thinks that if he can lie to his mom, then he can lie to her parents too. This makes her believe that he is not someone she should be hanging out with, so she leaves angrily. On the way, Jeez tries to explain to her his reason for lying. He finally tells her that he'll be traveling to Berlin next month to start schooling, because that's what his mom wants for him. On hearing this, Anne just walks out and storms into her house. She is talking with the girls on the group chat when Jeez's message pops in. He wants to be honest with Anne, but his mom doesn't approve of his relationship yet. Jeez goes to pick up his mom from the airport the next day, and while she's explaining her trip, he just grabs her hand and tells her he has a girlfriend. Jeez likes Anne and doesn't want to do anything to hurt her more than he already has. His mom doesn't seem interested in what he's talking about, but prefers to tell him about their investment. Back at school, Anne and her friends are happy that they made it into college. However, their joy is cut short when Jeez arrives. Anne's friends are ready to help her throw Jeez out. Jeez's mom has finally approved of him and Anne, so there's no more lying. Anne doesn't want to have a long-distance relationship, but Jeez just keeps on assuring her that he'll always come back during the holidays, and he'll never miss events that are important to her. She knows that things may not be easy, so she advises Jeez not to make promises he can't keep. Having agreed on that, she accepts his flowers, and they spend the entire week together. Jeez even drives her to school, but she prefers him to drop her somewhere far away, so that people won't know that she's driven to school by her boyfriend. Soon, it's the German-Indonesian festival, and Anne and Jeez are together. Jeez sees his mom and thinks it's the right time to introduce his girlfriend to her, so he calls Anne and makes the introduction. However, his mom does not give Anne a warm welcome, and this saddens Jeez. Anne just manages to smile a bit to make the situation less awkward. Meanwhile, Anne's family sees Jeez's mom and also comes over to make her acquaintance. Anne's dad and brother, not knowing that Jeez's mom is against him making music, start talking about how good his music taste is. Jeez's mom also gives a cold reaction to them, and she tells Jeez to drive her home immediately. Jeez is very angry about the attitude his mom displayed, and in the car, she informs him that she thinks Anne's family aren't worth her time because they were dressed in poor clothes. She is even more disappointed when she hears that Anne's dad was a photographer, but is currently unemployed. She warns him not to hang out with people that are not successful financially, so that he won't end up like them. They are not in the same tax bracket, and she wants him to be successful and have an international career. Therefore, she has decided that he's going to Berlin next week. The next day, Jeez sits quietly in his room and texts Anne, telling her that he has to leave for Berlin. However, this saddens Anne, because her boyfriend won't be able to make it to her birthday. Jeez's mom and their driver drop him off at the airport. She has arranged for everything he'll need in Berlin, and all he has to do is show up. Later, it's Anne's birthday, and she's sad that her boyfriend couldn't make it. As Anne goes to the restroom, they notice someone sitting down and playing a happy birthday song on the guitar. She goes closer, and it's Jeez. What a pleasant surprise. Jeez takes Anne to her favorite place to give her a surprise birthday dinner. As they're about to kiss, someone screams out his full name, and he turns to see his mom. She received a message from the bank that her card had been tapped somewhere, and she traced the card to find him. As soon as Jeez reaches where his mom is, she slaps him hard. After scolding her son, she turns to face Anne, but Jeez stops her, because Anne has nothing to do with him not going to Berlin. He made his decision on his own. Every other thing his mom says after that feels like she's guilt-tripping him. She insists that he follows her at once back to the airport, but he pleads with her to give him a few minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, with Anne. Surprisingly, she angrily allows him. Anne is not happy that Jeez didn't even tell her that he left the airport to come to surprise her on her birthday. He tries to explain things, but she sees herself as someone trying to ruin his relationship with his mom. So all his pleas fall on deaf ears, and she just sits down crying. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Jeez goes to meet his mom, since Anne won't listen to him. Jeez is driven to the airport again, and this time, his mom even holds his hand to make sure he doesn't go anywhere, but gets on the plane going to Berlin. In the next scene, Anne and Tari are trying to figure out how they'll get home, because it's about to rain. Just then, someone shouts her name from a car, but she doesn't seem to recognize the person. He comes down and introduces himself as Rifty, someone that knows Jeez. Rifty offers to drive them home, since it'll soon rain, but she humbly refuses the offer. Next scene, Jeez sends Anne a package which she reluctantly collects from her mom. She unwraps it and sees a romantic note, which makes her smile, and a pretty necklace inside. While at a comedy show, Anne and her friends listen as the guy starts talking about long-distance relationships and how 85% of them never work out. Anne becomes uncomfortable and leaves. At home, she texts Jeez multiple times, but he doesn't reply. She's frustrated and begins to think that what the comedian said might be true. Next, Anne is studying with Tari, and a guy comes to her with a cup of coffee, saying it's from Jeez. She hands it back to him and instructs him to tell Jeez that if she needs anything, there's an app for that, and she can order them herself. The boy also complains that Jeez has been hard to reach of late, but Anne isn't buying that, because she believes if Jeez has really been hard to reach, then how is he sending him and Rifty to give her things? The boy, not knowing what to say, just stands up and leaves with the coffee. As the guy leaves, Anne receives a shocking text. Her dad is having a heart attack. Thankfully, they were able to bring him to the hospital in time. However, the doctor lets them know that his case is very severe, and he'll need surgery. Sadly, this is a dilemma, because Anne's family doesn't have enough to settle the hospital bills, so her mom plans to sell all her jewelry. Anne's brother reminds their mom of the land with the treehouse, but she makes him understand that she can't sell it, because it's family property, and not their personal own. So she'll have to ask the elders first before tampering with the land. Anne's mom adds her wedding ring to the collection of things to be sold. Anne is in her room, about to pray, when she receives a text from Jeez. He apologizes for not being reachable, and for her dad's health. Later, Anne leaves the hospital to do a little shopping, and bring a change of clothes for her mom, since she has been spending the nights at the hospital with her husband. Troubled by all the situations they're facing at home, Anne walks absent-mindedly on the road, and doesn't even notice a truck coming in front of her. Thankfully, a guy is fast enough to push her out of the road. Anne wakes up in a room with her friends and wonders where she is. They explain to her how the stranger called them, because they were on emergency contact, and informed them that she fainted after she was almost hit by a truck. Soon, the man comes with a cup of tea for Anne. It turns out that his restaurant is looking to hire someone, and since Anne needs a side job to support the money need for her dad's surgery, her friends advise her to apply for the job. The man doesn't think Anne is stable enough to take up the work, seeing that she fainted earlier, but she and her friends give him their full assurance that she can take the job and work very well. The man finally agrees, and they're very happy and grateful for the opportunity. While Anne is leaving work one night, her phone rings, and it's Jeez. Yet again, he apologizes for not calling her, and explains why he wasn't able to do so. Anne understands him, but just wants him to be a little selfless. At the end of their conversation, he promises to make it to her birthday. When Anne gets home, she gives her mom the money she has made to add to her dad's bills, making her cry joyfully. To make Anne believe him, Jeez sends a picture of his traveling ticket to Anne, as proof that he's coming for her birthday. Meanwhile, Anne is working well, and her boss is impressed. Because of her, he makes a policy of free drinks for the delivery guys. At school, Anne is also doing well. While closing up at work, Anne receives a text from Jeez saying that his mom showed up at his house in Berlin just as he was about to leave for the airport. Since she'll be staying till next week, he won't be able to attend the birthday, but he promises to make it up to her. Anne is very angry, and she cries. When her boss then shows up, she explains everything to him, and he advises her that it'll be better if she brings herself to get over it, rather than sulking. When Anne gets home, she decides that she has had enough. So she types a breakup message and sends it to Jeez. It's better to end the relationship than to suffer continuous heartaches. While Anne's friends are at the coffee shop, her boss comes over and appreciates her for all she has done in helping him build his coffee shop, and he gives her a gift. Natha, who is always being silly, asks Bayu why he isn't giving Anne anything other than beans, something like his heart, and they all laugh about it. But little did they know that this joke had sown a seed in the boss's mind. Anne thanks her boss as well, informing him that the next day is her graduation. He leaves after congratulating her. They all tease Anne, and even make a toast to her future with her boss. Jeez comes back to Indonesia, and his mom is shocked to see him. He doesn't even care to answer her question. The first thing he does is ask her for his guitar. At this point, he has accomplished what his mom wanted him to do in school, and is now ready to do what he wants. It's as if Jeez has been waiting for the day to spill his mind. Like he's been waiting for to tell his mom exactly how he feels about the way she treats him. He is back home only because Anne's graduation is the next day, and his mom's birthday is on that day. At this point, Jeez's mom is broken, and she starts crying. She lets him know that it wasn't her intention in any way to make him feel oppressed. She apologizes, and they reconcile. It's the graduation day, and Jeez made it. He comes in while Anne is giving her speech and sits among the audience, holding a bouquet. At the end of the speech, Anne gives her gratitude to her family, her friends, and a special person. Jeez sits there, smiling to himself. Of course, he thinks he is the special person she is referring to, but to his amazement, she calls Bayu the special person that taught her a lot, and she's grateful for that. To make matters worse, he is even sitting down with her family, and her dad goes ahead to give him a pat on the shoulder. Feeling dejected, Jeez stands up and leaves the auditorium. The ceremony is over, and they're all outside taking pictures when Bayu steals Anne away from her friends to have a word with her. Her friends overhear Bayu thanking Anne for mentioning his name in her speech, and they tell him to stop beating around the bush and go straight to confessing his love for her. As Anne turns back to face Bayu, she realizes that there's a ring stretched out to her, and he's going down on one knee. Anne stands there, stunned and perplexed. Bayu asks Anne to marry him, and that he's also ready to wait for her if she isn't ready at this point. She agrees to his proposal, and he puts the ring on her finger and hugs her. Anne returns home, only to see a bouquet and a letter from Jeez at her doorstep. She takes it in and reads the letter, till she gets to the part where he mentions his presence at her graduation. This shocks her so much that the paper even falls from her hand. She had no idea he was at the ceremony. Jeez asks for a chance to let him explain himself. She goes outside her house and enters the car he sends to pick her up. When she gets into the treehouse, Jeez is already there waiting, and they embrace each other. It's all going on romantically well between the two of them. Until Anne gets angry at Jeez for showing up now that she has agreed to marry Bayu, and not earlier. That doesn't seem to bother Jeez, because he thinks there's still a chance for the two of them to work out. To ascertain this, he tells Anne to look him in the eye and say she doesn't love him. Anne knows she still does love him, but because she doesn't want to lie, and because she doesn't want to admit the truth, she just storms out of the house and runs back home. All efforts from Jeez to call her back prove fruitless, because she doesn't even look back at all. Anne is filled with regret and anger. A love tale that started well turned out to be filled with heartaches and eventually end in a breakup. He came back too late, and she is engaged to someone else. Sadly, they are not an endgame, but since neither of them is married, who knows if fate will eventually let their paths cross once more and their stars align.